Hey there, and welcome to today's video. For today's video, I am so excited. I've been really wanting to build a windmill. Not just any windmill, I saw a lot of pictures from Netherlands, and I really wanted to build a tulip farm to be very specific. The issue is tulips in The Sims are a plant that you can actually grow. So they don't actually look as good as they would in a tulip farm because they have several tulips in one plant, which is not at all how tulips actually grow. But I digress. I wanted to build a tulip farm, and the closest I got was a pink flower farm, to be very specific. You might have noticed over on the corner there is a reference picture that I was basing this off of, and that's why I specifically decided on the pink flowers. It's because it was a pink tulip farm. It was not something that I was going to be able to do, at least just on base game. I'm sure if you have something like seasons, there's a lot of different flowers you could choose from there. I didn't have them. So I went with what I could get, and let me tell you, not only did this build take forever, it is mostly because I spent forever on debug. I have no idea how much time I cut off just from being on debug. I basically built what the reference picture had, and then I added a little section which is gonna end up being just a hallway that goes from the main house to the windmill so that both of the areas would be usable spaces. The issue was when I was building the windmill, it has kind of like a concave base. So that base, the only way I was going to be able to give it that type of shape was going to be by putting a roof, basically, where it does not belong. By putting a roof where it does not belong, there is admittedly a lot of clipping going on from time to time. I'm not going to lie about that. But if I put a hallway into it, it at least makes it look a bit better. It does end up being very usable space. I end up putting a workshop that I actually really ended up liking. It's a workshop that actually has woodworking and pottery, which is something that I never even thought of doing before this build. Even though it took me forever, I honestly enjoyed this build so much that I can't. I was so excited just telling everyone about, oh, I'm making this giant build and it's taken me forever, but I'm in love with it, and showing people blurry pictures of what it was looking like. I was just so excited to build something that I thought A, looked so beautiful, and B, was truly a labor of love. I would not have spent this much time on any build if it wasn't because I was really enjoying it and I was really liking what it was looking like. I would even be flipping every few minutes just to see, oh, what is it looking like on the gallery, and what is it looking like if you go from the world view. It was just so pretty. I really enjoyed what it looks like and how different it is from the rest of my world. I have this right next to the park, and it looks very pretty. I really like this lot. I will not lie about that. Spending all that time in debug was truly worth it. But going back to the house, this house ends up being only a 2-bedroom house, if you can believe it. It ends up having a giant kitchen. I wasn't sure what exactly I wanted the style to be because a lot of farmhouses tend to be very white, but I didn't want it to be that muted, and I know that being only base game, there's a lot of stuff that you don't have to be able to give it a bit more life. So here's what I decided. I ended up giving this house a bit of backstory to be able to say, yes, this makes sense here. So basically, in my mind, this house is a pretty old house, and the house, it is now in someone else's hands. They have remodeled this home. The windmill no longer functions as a windmill, and that's why they added the hallway. It is now part of the house, very functional. It only has 2 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms actually. It has 1 full bath and 2 half baths. So the way I thought of it was they kept a lot of the traditional stuff, so a lot of the wallpaper that was probably originally there. They might have inherited this house as well, and they've added some more modern items here and there. So in the kitchen, for example, it is a giant kitchen, which I would love to have that much storage in any kitchen. Does not matter if it's more modern or old school. I would just really like that much storage space. But when it comes to things like the living room, for example, they have a flat screen TV and a built-in. So in my mind, this was a bit of a mix of both, where maybe this was an inherited house, or maybe this was a house that they're slowly trying to renovate. I really just can't stress enough how much I enjoyed building this house. And at one point, one of the things that I did in debug is I ended up looking for a lot of items that I typically would never use. So I tried to do a lot of the decorations and a lot of the clutter items using as many things as I could find that actually come already as a usable item, but there were so many items that I found in debug that I kept thinking, oh, but I could use this here and I could use that there. So a definite must in this house is move objects, but do keep in mind that a lot of the decoration is also debug. So once we get to the kitchen, for example, when I start decorating and putting a lot of trinkets here and there is a lot of it that is debug. So there is a lot of stuff that your sim might not recognize is there and will be cooking on top of it, for example. But in the kitchen, I ended up even putting some dirty dishes, just tried to really make it look lived in. And I really wanted a harvest table for the dining room. I was thinking if there is any house that would have a giant dining room table, it would be a farm style house. So even though the house is only a 2-bedroom house, which it ends up being for a kid and a toddler, even though the family that is in Oakenstead is, I believe, a teen and a child, I ended up doing it more for a toddler. I wasn't really thinking too much of the family that was originally in the slot. I was just thinking more of what I wanted this house to be for. But even considering that, I put a giant dining room table in the dining room thinking, well, maybe this is where the family gatherings happen, since going back to my backstory, this might have been an inherited home and maybe the grandparents already had this giant table there where they hosted the whole family. And speaking of the bedrooms, doing the upstairs was quite a challenge. In order to fit what the image was, which basically has an A-frame roof, A-frame roofs are very doable in The Sims, but it also means that you need a lot of roof pieces in order to actually make it look appropriate for the house. That basically means that your upstairs is going to be a little smaller than what it looks like from the outside, but there is also a lot of jumping whenever you're trying to do something. So you are trying to zoom in, for example, but it's thinking that you're a level above, so it keeps trying to clip into the floor above instead of letting you work on the floor you're actually working on. And another area where the roof was clipping was in that one hallway, which I didn't want to put a lot of items or stuff in that hallway precisely because I knew that the roof was clipping on it. So I didn't want to force people to have an activity, even if it was just a mirror. I didn't want to have it in there since it would mean your Sims might try to use that one and you're not really going to be able to play properly while they're there. Speaking of playability though, the house has been tested and I can guarantee that your sim can use all the items. But the one thing that I didn't actually test was the woodworking table, since it already seemed like that should be usable. Everything that is around it is debugged, so your sim thinks it's not actually there. And clay. I built the pottery studio, but I don't actually really use clay whenever I'm playing with The Sims, so I'm not even sure if an adult can use it. But I put it on a table with a stool, so hopefully it is usable. Either way, the clay ovens that I put in there aren't actual ovens. They're the new grills that we got in the Hispanic Heritage Month update. I just thought they fit the vibe of what I was going for. It wasn't so much of a matter of this is what it works for. The other room, I was originally going to make an art studio, but then I realized that I put a lot of art stuff already in the garage, which, yes, I did steal a page out of James Turner's book and I deleted the floor and ended up using terrain paint. But honestly, if you're making a garage that looks like a garage at all, in The Sims 4, that is kind of what you have to do. So the art studio ended up being over on that side, since I figured if you're gonna do art anywhere in this lot, it's gonna be looking at how beautiful the lot itself is in general. I really wanted to make it look like it had rolling hills and everything, but it ended up being a bit more flat than I originally thought, even though I am completely happy with the way it works. Even the fencing around the flower field is debugged, so technically technically your sim can walk through it, but I put a little path there since it is all for visuals. It's not like your sim is gonna be going there unless you tell them specifically to walk to that certain spot. But anyways, we are getting close to the end of the video, and I just want to say happy 2021. 2020 is finally over, if you can believe it. For some people, it wasn't that bad of a year, but something that no one can deny is that it's definitely been a year like no other. For some, it has been strangely short, yet strangely long. I would put myself in that category. I sometimes didn't even know what month or what date it was, and sometimes I was thinking, how did 3 months pass by and I didn't even notice it? But welcome to 2021. I hope it's a better year for everyone. There's 12 months to go, so who knows what will happen from here to 12 months from now. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you really enjoyed it, but let me know what you think down below anyways. Let me know what you'd like me to try out next. I did hear a suggestion for a planetarium, so that might be coming up soon if I can figure out how to do that on base game. But keep an eye out for that one. I don't know if and when it'll come, but I will try my best. How about that? But let me know what you think down below anyways. Remember to like and subscribe. Hopefully that planetarium will be coming soon. I'm not saying next week. Don't hold your horses for that one. But do let me know if there's any other ideas you'd like me to try out next. Thank you so much for watching again, and I hope you have a great weekend.